Welcome to the Portraits in Fitness channel. My name is David. In my most recent video, I addressed comments sent to me in a private Substack message by a self-described woke vegan. In particular, the notion that meat consumption and the carnivore diet in particular is cruel and unsustainable. I left the second part of his comment to another video. This is that video, in which I'd like to address the further claim that the carnivore way of eating is quote-unquote long-term unhealthy. I'm long past exchanging insults or getting involved in arguments, so I set out to address these assertions in that video, making sure to stress that I want no part of any cult that follows dogma and has no room for other people with different approaches. I don't want to be right or win arguments. I just want to be guided by the best information I can find to live my best life, and I want the same for everyone else. I'm currently following an animal-based diet, and I'm more than happy with the results, which I've described and enumerated in weekly updates over the past 4 months and counting. But I've changed my views and my habits many times over the years, including following a vegetarian and raw vegan diet for a total of more than 2 decades of my 57 years and counting. I don't want the best only for my tribe. I believe that the greatest tribute to our Creator is the fulfillment of our gifts and each individual's potential, and I want everyone to thrive and live a good life, whether I agree with them or not. Dogma, doctrine, and ideology don't define me. Of course, I believe that everyone should look out for their best interests and those of their loved ones, as long as it doesn't harm others. So is the carnivore way of eating long-term unhealthy? When it comes to the long term, we do know that humans lived mostly on meat until almost yesterday on the overall timeline. We also know that heart disease, diabetes, cancer, dementia, and all kinds of ailments have only increased exponentially in recent decades. Society is sick. Let's start by looking at the state of health around the world in developed and developing countries and regions over the past 40 years, over which emphasis has been placed in general on a low-fat, higher carbohydrate diet, and in most recent years on plant-based eating in particular. And we can't ignore the high degree of industrialization of food, resulting in the much higher consumption of highly processed or ultra-processed products that our ancestors would not even recognize as food. If this food consumption is working, then why are an estimated 34% of Americans diabetic and over 60% of Americans either pre-diabetic or diabetic? And why would a recent Penn State report estimate that over 60% of American adults take prescription drugs, while over 45% have taken a prescription drug over the previous 30-day period? Most media accounts on the report distilled the findings into the frightening observation that in the future, most Americans will spend the majority of their lives medicated on prescription drugs. Not to go too far off on a tangent, but just look at the increase in the prevalence of prescriptions for statins, for example, which have increased from 12% of Americans over 40 in 2008 and 2009 to 35% a decade later, 2018 and 19. That's a 197% increase in just a decade. Not to be American-centric, but I'm only citing statistics for the United States due to consistent record-keeping and availability. So sorry to answer the claim that carnivore is long-term unhealthy with a question, but how did we get to this point as a species to have such highly capable brains that run on fat and are largely made from the building blocks of cholesterol? Before the last ice age and the advent of agriculture, how do we survive, if not thrive? And if you take away the improvements in preventing infant mortality, is life expectancy or the average lifespan higher than it was before the introduction of industrial seed oils and the food pyramid? Our very existence proves the effectiveness of the carnivore diet because it's meat that got us through history and the last ice age. not processed food and just-in-time delivery of products to supermarkets. It would be great if there were plenty of long-term studies on diet, but to date, such studies are epidemiological in nature, highly anecdotal, and lacking controls. I did, however, come across one interesting paper from almost a century ago entitled Prolonged Meat Diets with the Study of Kidney Function and Ketosis that was published in the Journal of Biological Chemistry in February 1930. It detailed a study investigating the effects of long-term high-protein meat-based diets on kidney function and the development of ketosis in the human body. The subjects happened to thrive with no ill effects, but it was, in the end, limited to just 2 subjects. I think that underscores the difficulty of cooping people up and recording everything they intake into their body. And there are no available long-term studies of present-day carnivore diet followers. That is to be certain. But there are countless anecdotal accounts of type 2 diabetics on the brink of limb amputations, curing their diabetes in weeks or months and going completely off pharmaceuticals, or people reversing schizophrenia, Parkinson's, and other neurological maladies. To be fair, we also have plenty of testimonies from vegans attesting to their good health, but no true long-term studies. Because despite the desires and the best efforts of the WEF, humans might be living on one large plantation, but we're not quite at the point of being lab rats just yet, where everything we consume can be monitored and analyzed. Like I said, at least not just yet. And that's a good thing. But we also have lots of testimonies from ex-vegans who endured significant health problems so unbearable that the pain of decoupling from their identity or brand as vegans was nothing in comparison. In fact, I first heard about carnivore from a friend who told me that he was getting a bit of guilty pleasure spending a lot of time watching ex-vegan videos. I'd never heard of such a thing in the other extreme from veganism, but carnivore is, in fact, where I've landed. And I'm down 30 pounds. I stopped snoring. I stopped biting my nails. My gums don't bleed. I don't snack between meals. I experience hunger differently. I don't eat to excess. Don't feel stuffed after meals. I stopped drinking alcohol, full stop. I feel calmer and more at peace with myself and others. My debilitating back pain is gone. Poof. My grocery bills are down. And most importantly, personally, I've achieved what I set out to do almost 1.5 years ago when I'd had enough and I found myself with that back pain and many pounds overweight, referring to myself in the past as 40 or 50 pounds ago. Now I can just go out and do any activity I want at any given time. Recently, I played pickleball and softball. I did well, and I didn't get sore or injured. And I'm looking forward to many, many other days of strenuous and enjoyable activity. So it's working for me and many, many other people. And if eating a plant-based diet is working for many others as well, then that makes me happy. Truly. But if people on either side of the spectrum can continue to thrive while sourcing and eating their food as locally as possible and avoiding ultra-processed products disguised as food and staying out of the sick care system and its various prescription potions, then I believe we'll all be better for it and have a positive impact on the majority of people that fall somewhere between our 2 extremes. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. That's it for today. And until the next time, as always, be good to yourself.